All right, guys, good morning. I think it's morning for most, some earlier than others. My name is Eric Gutierrez. I'm a sales exec here at Vaion, based in New York City, covering the Northeast. And George, I'll let you introduce yourself.
And I'm George Martinez. I'm a sales engineer based in California, the Bay Area. But happy
Cool.
to show you some cool stuff today.
Cool. Yeah, so you'll be, we'll do a quick run through some PowerPoint slides that has some really relevant information. And then we will run through, or George will run through a demo with me adding some bits and pieces here of what we're doing. So we'll have about 45 minutes of time. We're going to try and do the first 35 minutes or so of our presentation, and then give you guys a chance to use that Q&A box and shoot over some questions that you guys might have. They can be technical, they can be non-technical, whatever comes to mind. Perfect. So we'll get started. So we're going to talk about what really makes us different. That's going to be a big focus of our discussion today, right? Most of you guys have seen video platforms in one way or another. So I want to make sure that we highlight, again, those things that are not typical that you're seeing out there from other security platforms. So what are the challenges that companies are encountering today? So data overload, that's a big one, right? Typically they're adding more and more cameras to attempt to solve a solution, right? Or to attempt to solve a problem. Complex, we know that there are IT people, there are security or physical security people, and sometimes there are cybersecurity people. So just completely segmented, kind of business operations that can kind of affect how things happen, right? No easy way of managing or aggregating all of that data. And most solutions today are not out there aiming to solve both the physical piece and the cyber piece to protect, companies' assets, which are their people and their property. So why did we decide to build this product, right? So there are other solutions out on the market, but I think some of them really missed the mark on a couple very, very important things. So I think the first one really is real-time proactive security. We've seen that most other platforms, you can play back video, see things after an incident happens, but there are no platforms out there really trying to prevent an incident or prevent a threat from happening. The other thing is efficient use of the system for fast searching of video, for easier sharing of the video. That seems to be a pretty big pain point for most of the customers we talk to, where they just seem to be spending a lot of time doing things that should be very, very simple. And I think the really cool stuff that George is going to show us, a couple different ways we utilize this, is the intelligent insights. So some of the things that we do with our data that is very atypical from security platforms is really, I think, what kind of just sets us apart. And you'll see that what we've done for other customers, what we're aiming to do for some of the social distancing mandates that some states are requiring, are going to be pretty useful. And I think it's important to denote that these are basically features that are available out of the box that we're just utilizing our open API to communicate. So kind of to summarize, right, we want to make it easy to use. We want to hopefully prevent things from happening, right, not just capture them after the fact. And we want to protect our people, assets, and the intellectual property. That's really our main goals here. So a big thing, there's plenty of our customers, and we've all seen big security operations centers, lots and lots of cameras with 1, 2, 3 people staring at screens, trying to understand what is going on, right? I've been to customer sites that they have 8 monitors with cameras on them, but you have the 1 or 2 guards, and they're doing other tasks, right? They're issuing badges, they're dealing with visitors, they're dealing with vehicles, etc., not really able to understand what's going on. So what we want to do is actually help our customers understand what's going on, right? Give them the ability to act more proactively or near real time than just, hey, let me go back and actually look at what happened. So that's really a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here. And how we do that, obviously, with our vCore platform. So you're going to see this, obviously, a demo. I think it's a little bit more fun. But I want to point out a couple important things here. So all the cameras, all the time. So the premise of our platform is that you're not meant to pick and choose which cameras that you want to run our analytics on. We believe that having the ability to see the entire picture, right? See the entire system with these intelligent insights and analytics is really what's going to set you apart. That's really what gives you the full visibility, not just picking and choosing, a handful of cameras to do that with. The smart map, I think that's really cool to show in person, but that really tackles the situational awareness piece, where we are, taking all this information and allowing you to act on it with building management systems, fire safety, active shooter. Will show you how you can leverage this unique way of presenting the information, to your advantage. Smart timeline, things like that. The one thing I will want to point out as well is that we can do this with any camera. So you'll see a few here in this picture from other manufacturers, and the demo that you'll see today, I would say that, Georgia might be wrong, but probably 95% of the cameras are from other manufacturers. So we do support any ONVIF compliant camera. So what that means for you is that you can actually take advantage potentially of your existing camera infrastructure. You don't have to rip and replace every single camera within your environment. And of course, the mobile app as well for some of those real-time notifications. How do we do that, right? How do we do it? And you're going to see this in person, which I think is the best. But how are we actually taking this and making it better, right? So you'll see some of these dynamic views where we start talking about that machine learning and artificial intelligence and how we're actually enabling an operator to be able to act on something, because we're doing the digestion of information and then giving them a little bit less data that they have to interact with. And you'll see a lot of these integrated analytics. The map experience, I think, is really, really a neat tool for most people to have. Again, it really fits in the majority of customers, and we've seen it used a little bit differently by everyone. The similarity search is for those fast forensics, right? Being able to search for something very, very quickly. And then I think really important is the ability to manage this very, very easily. It seems like historically when people think of any sort of machine learning or analytic-based server or software or solution, they automatically immediately think complexity, right? It's very difficult, tough to configure, tough to set up, tough to maintain, but that simply is not the case in how we've positioned our solution. Some of the counting, again, George will show you some of that stuff and how some of our customers are leveraging it. And then open API, right? I think that's big. We are, open. We do want to interact with other systems because we believe that a lot of the data that we have, it's only the tip of the iceberg. We're only doing some little things that are helping our customers today, but with all of the information we have, we really can get out there and really solve some unique problems for our customers. So today's session is focused on commercial. You'll see a little bit of everything, right? So commercial, we think of commercial office buildings. I'm in New York City, so one of the places that has the most square footage of office space in the world. But couple different scenarios. We've talked to a lot of customers, both from our channel partners that deal with commercial real estate type of customers, as well as our customers. What are they looking for? What are some of the pain points that they have? And I think it's important to point out that we have different features here, but we really want to talk about what type of problems are we solving with the unique set of functions that we have, right? So, and again, George will show you these, and I'll show you how customers are using it. But active shooter and fire safety, I think that's extremely important. Being able to use our cameras that have built-in microphones to acknowledge and see where that active shooter may be in a real-time floor plan is something that's very unique. Tailgating for access control. Occupancy for energy efficiency, right? Taking those cameras, we do have a customer today, right? They're leveraging their cameras to understand how many people are on each floor of their building. And in the times of COVID, where your typical work schedules that don't exist anymore, right? If you had your building management system and your lighting system running on a schedule, guess what? That doesn't really matter anymore. Some of your tenants may be essential, right? IT or MSP providers, even financial traders down on Wall Street. They're going into the office because it's critical for them to be in that location. So you relying on that is not, it doesn't do you any good. But relying on actual people counting data that's extremely accurate does allow you to actually, use your camera system for something that most people typically don't even know it's possible. And then obviously some of the traditional security stuff, right? Unauthorized access, people loitering, like transients loitering around vestibules and lobby areas and front doors, kind of alarming guests. unusual access, some of the artificial intelligence to understand, hey, I haven't really seen a person come in through my loading dock after hours, which actually happened at one of our customer sites, getting a real-time alert so that your security team can actually go and address and see what's going on. And then some unique ones, loading dock congestion, right? Understanding in real time. Loading docks are like prime real estate in any city, right? New York, Boston, anywhere really. So being able to understand, hey, this truck, you have to come back in 10 minutes. And again, being able to get that information in 5 seconds versus having to go out there, hey, when are you going to be done? You just go in there and you're able to understand that and grasp that information. And then some traditional stuff for commercial. Cleaning crew inspections is huge, right? That's a huge overhead. You know, building management is probably the biggest one, right? 30% or so of expenses of a building, in especially in the New York area, are energy. The other piece is maintenance and upkeep. So cleaning crew and making sure that you're paying this company, you know, typically 7-figure contracts to come in and clean your large buildings, making sure they're actually doing what they're paid for before you have, you know, your tenants complaining. Identifying unescorted visitors very, very quickly, right? And the same thing, even if you're looking at large commercial where you're looking for missing people or a suspect or missing children, being able to do that very quickly in real time is what's going to make the difference between somebody being found safely or somebody not being found safely. So I think just hitting on a couple of those important things that were out there. And again, I think it's more important to understand some of these use cases, but you'll see them in action and you'll see some of that functionality when George gets on there. We are an end-to-end solution. We do have cameras. So our cameras, you know, we have 2 models, Pano and a dome camera, 4K cameras. They are TAA compliant, so they are fully compliant with the federal government. No issues on that standpoint. And really the unique value proposition for those cameras are those 4 directional microphones, that array embedded into the camera that actually allows us to overlay sound. So if we identify a gunshot, right? Say there's an active shooter scenario, being able to identify the location of that gunshot onto that map in real time is critical information for our first responders, right? If there's a fire, being able to go ahead and do different things, understanding that is critical. Simple onboarding, right? For our partners that are signing up cameras, take a picture of your QR code, add it to the server, you're done. And then the automatic firmware, right? We manage everything in-house. So you click a button, you're updating camera firmware and your server. And then bandwidth optimization at the edge, right? So with our cameras, being able to see your car or the person in high resolution, but everything else in the scene compressed in lower resolution for those really bandwidth constricted solutions. And then I think something that's extremely important to understand, and there may be some questions on this, is the way that we can deploy, right? So we can deploy with on-site servers with existing cameras, right? Large server at one location, which we call our B3000. We can go with a smaller server, bringing them in. I think the easy thing to see here is that we can mix and match, right? Vaion cameras connected to the cloud, Vaion servers with existing OnVIF cameras. We can manage that through a single pane of glass where you're getting the same analytics, the same features, the same, you know, across your entire enterprise. So just because you decide to go with an existing camera, as long as you have our appliance, means you get every single piece of analytic that you're seeing today. And if you want, hey, maybe I have a remote location, 5 to 6 cameras, you put in just our cameras connected directly to the cloud, and you're going to get the same functionality and benefit that you're going to see today. So I think, George, let me stop sharing so you can go on to the demo. So again, feel free to use that Q&A box, and towards the end of the demo, we will spend some time to address some of those things. So there's probably 2 windows. There's a chat and there's a Q&A. Make sure you're using the Q&A so we can mark questions as answered. So George, if you want to share your screen.
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and share. So I want to show you a few things, right? Of course, I want to first of all go through the interface, but also show you some integrations, how customers are using it, what the real-time examples of the product are. And so when we look at some of these things, we see, first of all, we're a browser-based platform. So that means that when we're looking at videos or different environments, we're able to to see not only our cameras, as Adam was saying, but any third-party cameras. And so that means that we can shift very easily. Let me go ahead and swap over to a different video. But that means that we're able to work with third-party on-VIF cameras as well as ours. So we can deliver the level of analytics that is important for our customers. So what that means is that we can, there we go, sorry about that, had some bandwidth issues. We can show a number of things. So for example, here we have some market environments. So in the commercial world, we're using third-party cameras, but we're able to see a number of things within this environment. So we have a market where we have capacity, we have users that are coming in on a daily basis, and we're able to deliver a level of analytics of capacity as well as security. So you'll see some pop-ups on the right when users enter or exit certain scenarios, and so these can be tuned in order to give you security exit access as well as an overview of your platform. So when we turn on that level of analytics, what you're going to see is that we're doing object detection. And we can do this for stationary objects as well as objects in motion. And this is a differentiator in the market in some analytic platforms where we can do capacity management. And so this can be parking lot capacity as well as retail or person capacity. So in this case, we're looking at a retail environment where we have a number of people at the door, and you can see a timeline on the left. And this is doing that real-time analytics of people as they're entering, as they're exiting an environment, and giving us a graph over time. What that allows us to do is jump straight to the point of looking at trends and events. So if I did need to see when there was an empty store and maybe something occurred, I can very quickly jump back in a timeline as well as jump forward. And so these peaks in this analytical data in real time is key to being able to leverage this platform. So not only being a real-time security engineer, but also doing some forensic lookup in the past. And so, for example, if we did have an incident and we needed to very quickly get to the point of what happened on a real-time video, so this is now a real-time video, I can do what's called a spotlight search to find any applicable data across my cameras for these users. And so that means that I can very quickly just look for where this user has been across my entire organization. Now this can be 1, 2, 16, 100 cameras, but this similarity search straight from the interface allows us to do object detection and similarity detection in real time. And so I can now watch this user as they have traversed my cameras, possibly committed a theft, a crime, just a missing person. Whatever the scenario may be, it's instantly accessible, and it's leveraging the power of these object detections. So going back to the timeline, this means that we can do a few different things from this view. Now I'm viewing my store currently. I can see the capacity inside and out. We can, of course, also jump to different views and different scenarios in this case. We have some parking lots, but we can also do some things on maps that are pretty unique. So when we talk about this retail or this commercial scenario, we showed some of that object detection. So for example, we have a parking lot over here. In this parking lot, we have a number of cars. It's maybe a low traffic for people during the day when they're not coming in and out. But monitoring the capacity of a parking lot or a location like this is very simple. But we can also do some overlays to that monitoring. So in this case, we have the market that we were just looking at. And so in this market, we have the overlay of our camera views, but we also have something unique, right? We have object detection, but we're also showing where those objects are spatially on this map. And that's leveraging the ability to create an advanced field of view where I can actually place a camera on a map, show the field of view, but also look at the floor plan or the satellite view, whatever you may be looking at, plot the points relative to where they are. That allows us to see there is currently 2 people in the top aisle. And so in this case, as a retail or as a commercial security platform, we're monitoring capacity in certain portions of a store. So whether that's parts of an aisle or that's just users or employees that may be cohabitating in the building, we can use this data to drive those analytics. And that's where the analytics really becomes very, very exciting, very, very cool. Because I know the capacity of aisles, I know the capacity of people that may be entering the store, so we can create line crossing in order to do counts of people entering versus exiting. And we can have this across one or multiple exits. But we can also export this data. So this can be exported in a very simple CSV, or as Eric was alluding to, we can leverage APIs or other integration methods, such as webhooks, in order to integrate with third-party platforms. And the integration sphere is very wide. So there's no limitation that we put on it. There's no SDK you have to write. There's no special coding. Standard webhooks, RESTful APIs, all the things that you would expect in a current generation platform. So that means Microsoft Teams, Slack, Splunk, Google Cast, even home automation platforms that we've seen in a couple of demos to mock some things up are very realistic once you have this level of data. So to that point, what that means is that we had a customer that had a very real situation where they said, hey, we really want to, in this case, solve a problem that we're having today.
George, really quick.
Yeah.
George, really quick. Can we go back to the map view for a second to show the office layout? Just a second.
Absolutely.
Hit on 2 points, and then we can. Is it on there?
Sorry. There yeah, right here. So.
Perfect. So, I think just to reiterate some of the things George was mentioning, I think where it's really important to have all this data, right? We're looking at the real life example of the retail store, but when you have let's say an office building, whether that is the parking structure, I mean, again, I'm in New York City and I can count the amount of times that I've gone to a parking garage and it's full without them even knowing it, right? They're stockpiled people. So being able to have that data in real time, we have some of our customers that are looking to use this to count the vehicles, right, in their parking garages, especially when that is a very expensive piece of real estate in New York. Same thing on the floors, right? So when we're looking at this map, being able to identify these people in real time. So if there is an emergency, right, we have the operational insight and the intelligent insights where we're showing you the number of people and all that, which I think is very relevant and useful information. But being able to take this and be proactive, right? Maybe there's a fire on floor 2. Why are there still, 20 people or whatever it may be within my floor versus all of the other floors have no one, right? What is going on? Are they trapped there? But being able to see this within 2 seconds, right, when you click on this, I think is extremely, extremely useful for our customers. And obviously being able to search and identify people within this map without having to really go anywhere else. So if I find an individual, being able to track that data. And again, this is kind of like a dashboard of information. You see these alarms based on the count. So if you are doing social distancing, right, we're limiting the number of people that can be in our buildings. We're requiring companies to limit their occupancy to 50% or 25% of the space that they actually have. We can actually monitor that, right? We can actually tell companies, hey, you have way too many employees in the space, and I need to make sure as me as the property manager, I am complying with New York State's new requirements or new laws to maintain the correct number of people within my building. So now you can check off your duty of care requirements and keep your tenants safe, right, from themselves sometimes. So just different examples of how we can use the information we have beyond your traditional security environment.
Yeah, no, great point, Eric. Because there, of course, there's so many examples out there, and the new normal of social distancing is very important. And so leveraging this to keep an eye on it, as well as create those alarms that you've seen pop up a couple times to keep you on top of that can just be another way to help nudge users and make sure that your existing investment in cameras is becoming a little smarter and more proactive. So what I wanted to kind of show a little bit of is a very real use case that we had a customer bring up. And so this is an example of a retail customer who said, hey, one of our issues is that we currently have to limit the number of people in a store. And this is a very real situation in many parts of the country today, where face coverings are required and social distancing is enforced. So there has to be capacity per square footage. And so in this use case, there's a person that is dedicated to just telling people when to come in and when to leave based on that capacity. So surely there has to be a way to make this easier. We do it on the streets today, right? If cars go one way down a street, then a traffic light tells them when to stop and allow the other flow of traffic. And so in this situation, we have all the tools within our platform to do it. So we mocked up just a very quick example on a very free open source platform in order to give you very basic analytics in a red light, green light scenario. So leveraging the counts that we can already do with our object detection and taking this person who is allowing people in and out of the store, we just very quickly put together something that delivers this data for you. Right, and so what this means is that this is the real-time data from this camera, this interface in our market, where its capacity typically goes up to 8. Of course, this is a low capacity for an example. It could be 50, 100, any number required. But the point is that anytime the capacity reaches above a threshold, 8 is our configured threshold here, we're going to let users know, please wait. That's this dynamic traffic signal on the right. And anytime it drops down to 7 or lower, it will allow people to come in. It'll also inform them when only one more person can enter the store so people can start to exit or start to slow down. And you can see this data historically in the form of a line graph. You can also see this data in terms of interval to see how often this store is frequented. But we can also turn this into a very simple traffic light that most people can understand. So we can give you the capacity if that's important. So the 9 on there is indicating we're above the threshold. Now it's dropped down to 7, 1 below our threshold. So you'll get the indicator of 1 more. As it drops further, it'll turn green and allow people to flow in. And this is just an example of using the data that's already there, using a platform such as ours that is already gathering that, and just making it accessible to the users. Today, you go to hardware stores and there are employees with cell phones that are counting in, and then another set of registers counting out. That's almost there, but this is one example of getting to that next level, where this could be run on a third-party platform. This could be run on a cell phone, a tablet, even a smart assistant. You see those devices that are decently locked down. One example of that would be, for example, the Google Cast or Google Home. So this is one example of one of these devices where we just want to take this interface and display it. So in our case, we want to put this traffic light on this display and put it in a window. And maybe this becomes the new method of people queuing up in front of a store and coming in. But the real point here is that when you have an open and extensible platform, making these types of integrations are very simple. This is not costly. This is 100% free software and leveraging our platform's analytics that are also open and RESTful to anyone that is running the vCore platform. And so not to go too deep into that, but the point is that with this data, we can do some interesting things. We already talked about searching, but a very real example of that searching is if we did have something such as a user that was in a certain part of a parking lot, for example. We had a theft or a break-in of a car, and we just want to know every person that was in that area. Or a server room that lost an asset. These types of searches are very simple from our interface. So if I wanted to see every person, for example, that was in this market, and I just want to use every camera and say within the last 30 minutes, we can very quickly get to every object detection. This could also be cars for UPS trucks or taxis or Ubers, or just a car theft. But it makes it very easy to just get to the people that are part of your scenario. So if it was a child abduction, or just a missing child, you can very quickly get to any relevant data. Let's go with this individual right here, and any relevant clips that may come up. We can very quickly say, okay, yes, this is the video I want. This is the user entering the portion of the frame that is important. I want to very quickly export this to an MP4 file. And this is your standard MP4, so you can play it without a codec in the background, no special players. But we could also say, you know what, I just want to quickly email this out. Maybe I'm on my phone, or Slack is the way that I message around the world. We can quickly say, hey, I'm going to share this to you. It's going to last for a week. This is our market theft, and I'm going to send this to the authorities or loss prevention. Now, this link is a public link that you can create that will be accessible by any user, so they can very easily throw this into a browser and review only this footage without gaining access to the entire platform. No holes required to be poked into the firewall. It's just very simple and intuitive for users. And you can even trim this even further to what's relevant. And of course, you can bookmark it for future reference if you always want to have reference to the theft for training situations, or just to reference people going forward. But we could also do this search based on an image. And so this comes up in loss prevention. Someone took a cell phone picture of a suspect, and we want to see where they went. It makes it very easy to just upload an image of this user and search across all of these cameras. But we could also look for situations where we just want to see every person that entered a store. And so in our market scenario, if I have a line crossing rule across this store, I want to know every time someone entered this store. I can very quickly create that rule, say, let's see everyone in the last 30 minutes, and I start to get all of the results of everyone that enters this store. And so I can see an overlay on the map as this event happens, and I can get straight to the relevant data, what is important to me. And that's the point of having analytics. Instead of motion zones and having a dedicated hardware on cameras that delivers you this data, using any third-party installation and delivering this analytics on top of it, so we can get to the root of what may have happened. And these rules can be created based on your appearance search, so people or vehicles, line crossing, which I just showed, loitering, so vehicles or individuals that are staying in one location for an extended period of time, the sound analytics, as we mentioned, and that sound analytics can be very important when you have things like users that are in environments that are sheltered in place, and thefts are becoming more and more common. We want to know when glass breaks in a store that's empty, because that's something that's important to us.
Hey, George, just because we're wrapping up to close to the last 10 minutes, there's quite a few questions I want to make sure we get through, and maybe we'll answer some of the additional things as we get there. So
yeah, perfect.
A couple of these we may have mentioned already, but I'll make sure to go over them. Is this solution on-prem only or cloud-based? So you could go ahead and answer them if you want, George, and I can jump in.
So great question. So the answer is that we are an on-prem server, and we have a cloud-based solution coming in the future. So, but the important thing is that all of our on-prem have the capability to natively integrate to the cloud. So what I'm showing you right now is a browser-based access to a server sitting in New York. I'm in California. I'm remotely demoing a New York server via Zoom, so that we're coming full circle for this worldwide trade show. The answer is that we can have a server on-prem that's doing your native analytics of those third-party cameras. And then we can have access across multiple sites across the world. So they cluster via the cloud, as well as remote access can be done via the cloud.
Perfect. So some of these look like they may be some specific use cases for some of the people or on the call or on the Zoom. Can the system track parked vehicles? And it sounds like they're concerned about Uber or Lyft pickup or drop off. So I guess cars stop for too long of a time.
Yeah, so we can configure these rules. One of those rules that I quickly showed is loitering. So those loitering rules can be configurable for different thresholds, and that can detect cars that are idling in locations that they shouldn't be. It can also be time sensitive, so you can just look for after hours when there should be any activity. If a car does pull up, you can be alerted to that and take immediate action.
Perfect. So, and I guess in conjunction to that, we can identify cars that are parked where they're not supposed to be. So we're not just looking for moving objects, if you want to use that, right? We're able to identify stationary people and vehicles, which is a big differentiator for us. Can I use this counting data with my building management system?
So yes. So part of what I showed you is a very open platform. It's called Home Assistant. It's not intended for building management at all. But the great thing is that because we have these very open integrations, whether via webhooks or API, you can use it in just about every current gen platform. So we can deliver a webhook based on an event that you subscribe to. So whether it's capacity or alarms. Or we can support API requests that would then drive that integration. So we're very integratable. If you follow up with us, we can even go deeper into what you're using and how to accomplish that.
Gotcha. If I use my existing cameras, how many cameras can I put on a single server?
So great question. So we have different capacities for every need, right? So all the way from 16 cameras up to 200 on a single server, and then you can cluster servers to increase that capacity exponentially. So there's really no limit, but on a single server, with even using all third-party cameras, we can do 200 cameras and deliver analytics on top of all of those.
Perfect. And I think it's important to note that we are running all of the analytics all the time on every single camera on that appliance. We're not just picking and choosing a handful out of those 16 or 200 cameras, right? So we want to give you the full picture, like you saw George present, on every single device. Where does the product originate? So I think I answered, yeah. So on the camera side, which I guess is the question, so we are TA compliant, so we are not manufacturing or using Chinese components. So if there are partners or customers concerned about any sort of federal bans or things like that, we're good to go, and we can always provide a letter or anything like that if it does become a concern. So we have another couple of questions. We have another 5 minutes or so. Do the cameras need any special custom configuration or custom placement for these analytics to work?
So the answer there is no. So of course, there's always going to be situations. The more we can see, the better we can deliver. But from any placement, we can do the analytics. So we're looking for objects. So the object detection is not based on placement; it's based on what it can see. And so we have some very poor scenarios that actually deliver decent results. That New York video that I shared, I can share it again very quickly. Not the best resolution, frame rate, or quality, but we can still do detections and create that analytics. So it makes it very easy to integrate with any camera that's out there. But we can also make recommendations.
Gotcha. And then we have another question. What access control platforms does Vaion integrate to? So today we are going through official kind of certification and testing for Linnell access control. So it's been built. We are just waiting to get signed off, and we have quite a few others on the roadmap. And again, if there are any specific ones, feel free to reach out to us. and we can always discuss if it makes sense to pursue that. So we're pretty nimble in that regard, and we can move pretty quickly on an integration if we have to. Someone asked about creating an analytic. I think we showed how the line crossing and the searches work. Let me see. What configuration is required for the anomalies? So I guess I can answer that one. So the anomalies work just by understanding your typical environment, right? So if you have, let's say, a SOC or anyone, right? We can create those rules that George showed you, but I think the unique value here is that you don't have to have thought of a rule or thought of some predetermined thing. The camera or the system will learn what is normal in your environment, right? If it's normal for me to see my cleaning crew here at 12 a.m., it'll learn that over the course of a couple weeks. If it is not normal to see a person within my building, how do we, how do we do it? It'll actually just learn, it'll timestamp the objects, and it'll just notify you with that orange bounding box, and you can decide what you want to do with it, right? If it is an alarm, you'll tell it, hey, this is a valid alarm. If it is not, you just mark it as false, and it will not alert you on anything, the next time that something like that happens. So there's zero configuration, it just learns. Same thing, like George said, when you add a camera, we're doing the analytics by default. We create all the streams that we need, all that fun stuff. So it is truly, nearly plug and play with our appliance. Add your cameras and you're running analytics. I mean, we have a video, I think, of one of our guys getting everything set up in like 1 minute and 30 seconds or something like that. Let me see what other questions. Do you have an app? Yes, so we do have iOS and Android apps that are released. And again, I think the value there, similar look and feel, and the real-time analytics. So I know we're running on towards the end of this time. If you guys do have additional questions, if you guys want to do a one-on-one, if there are specific use cases that you guys are interested in chatting about or talking about, or you had some questions that we didn't get to because we had quite a few, feel free to reach out, email, LinkedIn, sign up on our main website. If you go on Vaion, right on the right side, you can schedule a one-on-one demo, and we'll get the right person there and we can discuss. So hopefully you found a lot of this stuff insightful, interesting, a little bit different from a traditional, video demo. And we hope to, work with you guys in the future. Thank you guys for attending. Thanks, George.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Take care.